The room was heavy with smoke and tension. Inside the cracked walls of the mercenary outpost, rough warriors lounged, their weapons never far from reach. These were the galaxy's most dangerous mercenaries, aliens with scars, cybernetic limbs, and dead eyes that had seen too many wars. At the center, sitting on a throne made from broken steel, was Korak the Iron Claw, leader of the Crimson Fangs. His sharp eyes scanned the crowd as he spoke. "There is a fortress in the Blood Wastes," Korak announced, voice low and dangerous. "The client offers 10,000 credits to destroy it. Rebels hold it. Beasts guard it. Radiation storms swirl around it." The room shifted uncomfortably. No one spoke. No one volunteered. Korak smirked, expecting this. Everyone knew about the Blood Wastes. It was a cursed land where even machines failed. Last month, an entire squad of veteran fighters had marched into those storms and never came back. Only scraps of armor floated back on the wind. Korak leaned forward, claws tapping the armrest. "No takers? Are you all cowards?" Still, silence. Some mercenaries looked away. Others pretended to check their weapons. Even the bravest ones hesitated. 10,000 credits were useless if you were dead. And then, a single voice spoke. "I'll take it." Heads turned sharply. The room quieted, every mercenary's gaze locking onto the figure standing at the back. It was a human. He wasn't tall, compared to the alien giants around him. No shining armor, no heavy weapons, just a simple battlesuit, scratched and dusty from old fights. A rifle slung casually over one shoulder. His face was calm, almost bored, as if the deadly mission was just another walk through the market. Korak blinked, then laughed, a harsh, metallic sound. "You? A human? Alone?" The mercenaries joined in, roaring with cruel laughter. Some pounded tables. One even wiped a tear from his scaled eye. To them, humans were fragile, slow, weak. They were good for repair work, translations, or being captured, not for surviving the blood wastes. But the human didn't react. No anger, no embarrassment. He simply stared at Korak with calm, steady eyes. Eyes that didn't blink. Eyes that said, "I've seen worse than you." Korak's smile faded slightly. "And what is your name, little man?" Korak sneered. The human shrugged. "Call me Dane." "Dane," Korak repeated, the name strange on his alien tongue. "Very well. Your funeral." He tossed a small device toward Dane. It landed with a clink at his feet, a beacon transmitter. "Standard issue. You activated it after completing the mission to claim payment. If you survive," Korak said mockingly, "activate the beacon. We'll come scrape your bones off the ground." The crowd erupted again, laughing harder than before. But Dane didn't pick up the beacon immediately. He only glanced at it once before looking back at Korak. "One thing," he said in a low voice. Korak raised a brow. "What now, human?" Dane pointed at the mercenaries with a lazy hand. "Keep them out of my way." Korak barked a genuine laugh this time, the audacity. "Very well, human, you have your wish. No one will lift a finger to help you, or to stop you. You'll be alone." Dane nodded once. Then, without another word, he turned and walked toward the steel doors. His boots echoed against the dirty floor. The mercenaries watched in stunned silence, as the human stepped into the wastelands without fear, without backup, without a second thought. For a long moment after he disappeared, no one moved. No one spoke. Finally, one of Korak's lieutenants, a reptilian brute named Skur, leaned closer and hissed, "Should we follow him? Watch him die?" Korak tapped his claws thoughtfully. He couldn't explain it, but something about the human felt different. Not ordinary, not weak. "Yes," Korak decided at last. "Let's watch. It will be entertaining." Deep inside, though, a strange unease prickled at him. Something told Korak that today he would witness something that would not be so easy to laugh at, and, without knowing why, the great mercenary leader felt a cold shiver crawl down his armored spine. The wastelands greeted Dane with a breath of fire, as the massive steel doors of the outpost slammed shut behind him. A storm of blood-red dust howled across the broken landscape. The sky was not blue. It was a swirling sea of black and crimson, crackling with strange lightning. The ground cracked with every step, leaking poisonous gases from deep beneath the planet's dying skin. High on the outpost's observation platform, Korak and his mercenaries watched through grimy scopes. No one spoke. The human had no heavy armor, no shield drones, no companions. Yet he marched forward without hesitation, the beacon transmitter clipped casually to his belt, his rifle resting across his back. To any other being, the blood wastes were pure suicide. For Dane, it was just another battlefield. Korak leaned on the railing, claws digging into the metal. "He doesn't even bother to scout," he muttered. "Either he's insane, or he knows exactly what he's doing." Down below, Dane paused at the edge of a cracked canyon. A gust of wind almost knocked him over, but he adjusted effortlessly, balancing like a veteran of 100 storms. Then, something moved in the dust. From the shadows emerged creatures, twisted things born from radiation and centuries of decay. Their bodies were a patchwork of muscle, bone, and metal, with jagged mouths stretched too wide to scream. Korak heard his men betting behind him. 5 credits says he fires and misses, 10 says he runs, 20 says he gets torn apart. But Dane didn't run. He didn't even lift his rifle immediately. Instead, he watched, measured, calculated. The creatures crept closer, saliva dripping from their teeth. One of them lunged. Crack, one shot, one creature down. Head snapped back by a bullet that hit dead, center between eyes that no normal soldier could even see through the storm. Dane pivoted on his heel, smooth as liquid. Crack, crack, crack. Each shot was calm, precise, unhurried, as if he was punching holes in paper, not fighting for his life. In less than a minute, the entire pack of monsters lay still, staining the cracked earth black with their blood. The mercenaries behind Korak fell silent. He didn't miss once, Skur muttered in disbelief. And he didn't waste a single bullet, someone else whispered. Korak narrowed his eyes. This was no lucky human. This was skill, raw, deadly skill, honed in places no maps recorded and no stories told. Still, the wasteland had more horrors to offer. As Dane advanced, the ground trembled. From beneath the cracked surface burst mechanical scavengers, half machine, half organism, designed to tear intruders apart. Sharp metallic tendrils lashed out. Dane didn't panic. He threw a small device at his feet. A blinding EMP blast rippled through the air, frying the machines instantly. Their metal bodies convulsed, smoked, and collapsed in a heap of broken parts. The human kept walking, never looking back. It was unnatural. It was terrifying. It was beautiful. From above, Korak's respect grew, unbidden and unwanted. Maybe, just maybe, the human would reach the fortress. Maybe he would even survive. But Korak knew one thing for certain now. This Dane was no ordinary mercenary. He was a blade, a sharp, silent blade, honed to perfection by wars the galaxy had forgotten. And whatever his mission was in the blood wastes, he wasn't just going to complete it, he was going to own it. As the red lightning flashed and Dane disappeared into the next valley, Korak whispered under his breath, "I have made a mistake." The valley ahead was a graveyard of broken machines. Old war wreckage lay twisted under the blood-colored sky. Tanks ripped open like tin cans, fighter jets half buried in the ash, their wings snapped like dry bones. The winds howled through, the debris carrying with them the stench of rust, death, and forgotten battles. Dane moved like a shadow between the ruins, careful, silent. Every step placed with purpose. His rifle was loose in his hands, relaxed but ready. From high above, Korak and his mercenaries watched through zoom scopes, hidden on a crumbling cliff. They spoke less now. The human had crossed farther into the wastelands than any being before, and he was still alive. But survival here was never simple. In the heart of the valley, unseen by Dane, the ground seemed to ripple. The shadows shifted, and from them emerged predators that made even seasoned mercenaries pale. They were not beasts of flesh nor machines of metal, but something in between. Dark figures stitched together from ancient technology and alien biology, with blades for limbs and hollow eyes that glowed an eerie blue. They didn't roar. They didn't hiss. They simply appeared, silent, deadly, patient, 10 of them, surrounding Dane without a sound. Skur, watching through his scope, grinned. Finally, let's see him dance now. But Korak didn't smile. His claws dug harder into the railing. Down below, Dane paused. He hadn't seen them, or had he? For a moment, it seemed like he was unaware, vulnerable, alone, and then he moved, faster than sight. With a twist of his body, Dane dropped low, swinging his rifle like a staff. The butt cracked against the nearest predator's leg joint, sending sparks flying. Before the others could react, he rolled aside, pulling 2 grenades from his belt and tossing them high into the air. No beeping, no countdown, just impact detonation, boom, explosions, tore through the tight formation of the shadows, throwing debris into the blood-red sky. Limbs and shrapnel rained down like black snow. Dane didn't wait. He darted forward, sliding under a collapsing steel beam, switching seamlessly from rifle to sidearm. Twin handguns with silencers so sharp that even their gunshots sounded like whispers of death. One by one, the shadows fell. He wasn't just fighting. He was hunting. He was predicting them, knowing exactly where each would strike before they moved. His instincts moved faster than logic, faster than any strategy Korak had ever witnessed. Within 2 minutes, it was over. The valley was silent again, and the only figure standing among the wreckage was the human. Dane wiped the blood and ash from his sleeve, reloaded with mechanical efficiency, and continued walking, as if nothing had happened. Above, the mercenaries were frozen. Did anyone even see him reload? One whispered. I couldn't even follow his hands, another said. Korak said nothing, his jaw was tight. His fist clenched so hard that the metal railing beneath his hands groaned. This was no mere luck, no accident. This human was trained to a level even Korak had never achieved. More than that, he fought with a kind of calm, a silence, a darkness that didn't belong to normal warriors. He fought like someone who had been forged in the worst hells of the universe. For the first time in years, Korak felt the stirrings of something ancient inside him. Not anger, not hatred, fear. He watched Dane's small figure disappear into the heart of the valley, swallowed by the crimson fog. The blood wastes had thrown their worst at him, and the human had danced through it, smiling. Korak whispered under his breath, a growl caught in his throat. This is no ordinary prey. And for the first time since becoming a mercenary lord, he wondered, had they just unleashed something even the wastelands could not kill? The blood wastes faded behind Dane like a bad dream. Ahead, rising out of the cracked earth like the skeleton of a dead god, stood the fortress. It was no ordinary structure. It looked more like a wound carved into the planet itself. Black, jagged, walls fused with the bones of fallen ships, ancient tanks and scrap metal older than memory. The air around it shimmered, sick with radiation and hate. High on a ridge, Korak and his mercenaries stared in stunned silence. No one's ever even reached it before, Skur whispered. And now, he's just walking up to it like it's a market square, another said. But Korak said nothing. His golden eyes narrowed, following Dane's every move. The human paused at the edge of the kill zone. Invisible to the naked eye, layers of traps waited ahead, plasma mines buried under the sand, auto turrets hidden in rusted debris, motion-triggered explosives dangling like fruits from broken power lines. A normal soldier would never survive. And yet Dane knelt down calmly, pulling a small, battered device from his belt, a scanner so old and primitive it looked worthless. He swept it slowly across the ground. The device beeped, barely audible. Dane smirked. In one smooth motion, he tossed a handful of silver dust into the air. The dust floated and revealed everything: invisible beams, laser tripwires, energy nets. The entire ground before the fortress lit up in ghostly blue patterns. A deadly spiderweb meant to trap anyone foolish enough to approach blindly. The mercenaries behind Korak cursed under their breath. This should have been impossible, one muttered, but Dane didn't hesitate. He moved with perfect precision, weaving through the invisible death traps like he was dancing. One step left. One half turn. A crouch under a deadly line. A leap over an unseen mine. Every movement perfect. Every mistake fatal. And he made none. When he reached the first wall, a deep, mechanical hum echoed across the wastelands. The fortress had seen him. A dozen turrets emerged from the ground, targeting lasers painting Dane's chest and head. From the ridge, Skur grinned. Nowhere to run now, but instead of running, Dane sprinted forward, straight into the turret's kill zone. Sap! Blinding energy beams cut through the air, but Dane was faster. He threw a smoke capsule behind him, filling the air with thick black fog. The auto-targeting system struggled. Their lasers flickered. Their shots grew wild. Through the smoke, Dane darted, using the chaos to reach a maintenance hatch half buried under the fortress's left wing, a weakness no one else would have even noticed. He knelt, pulled out a plasma cutter the size of a pen and sliced through the ancient locks like butter. The hatch fell open with a groan and Dane disappeared inside. Gone, like a ghost into the machine. On the ridge, Korak's fist tightened around his scope until the casing cracked. He had seen elite teams fail to even touch the outer walls, and now this single human had not only reached the fortress, he was inside it. Korak's heart pounded against his ribs, a feeling he hadn't tasted since his first battles. Fear, excitement, something new and terrifying. "Follow him," he barked at Skur and the others. "Stay hidden, watch, report everything." No one argued now. The fortress of death had been breached, not by an army, not by a monster, but by a single human whose name no one would soon forget. And somewhere, deep inside the black heart of the fortress, alarms began to scream, but they were too late. Death had already entered their gates, and this time it wore a human face. Inside the fortress, the air was different. It was thick, metallic, and alive with whispers. Pipes moaned in the walls. Rusted gears turned somewhere deep below. Lights flickered and died in short bursts, casting twisted shadows along the narrow halls. Dane moved through it like a phantom, silent, focused, unstoppable. His eyes missed nothing. Pressure plates hidden beneath cracked tiles, thin tripwires glinting faintly under blinking lights, vents exhaling poisonous gases. He dismantled traps without slowing down, disarming them with hands that moved faster than thought. Somewhere deep inside the fortress, rebel leaders watched him through flickering monitors. Their faces were pale. Their commands grew desperate. "Seal off Sector 7. Release the beast bots. Cut off the power grid. Trap him in darkness." But no matter what they tried, the human kept moving. He was a storm inside their walls, and outside, high above on the crumbling ridge, Korak's mercenaries watched in awe and growing fear through their portable scopes. "This is madness," Skur muttered. "No one should be able to do this." Korak said nothing. His gut twisted painfully, but it wasn't just what Dane was facing that unsettled him. It was what he didn't know was coming, because betrayal was already in motion. Among Korak's men, a figure slipped away unnoticed. His name was Voran, a snake-hearted mercenary with scales like burnished silver. He had always hated Korak's rule, hated following orders, hated sharing profits. Now Voran had made a secret deal with the rebels. In exchange for Dane's death and Korak's humiliation, they promised Voran unimaginable wealth and command of his own mercenary army. Greed clouded his mind as he moved down the ridge, transmitting coded signals to the rebel forces hidden inside the fortress. Far below, hidden doors opened. New traps activated. A silent alarm pulsed through the fortress, alerting every enemy to Dane's exact position. Inside the fortress, Dane paused. His instincts screamed, not fear, warning. He ducked just as a plasma turret unfolded from the ceiling, firing a deadly beam where his head had been a second before. Dane rolled behind a cracked pillar, breathing steady. That wasn't supposed to be here. He had memorized the fortress schematics during the march. Someone had changed the defenses mid-battle. Someone had betrayed him. Through the broken walls, mechanical footsteps thundered. Elite warbots, heavier and faster than anything he had faced before, poured into the corridors. Shining armor, energy, blades crackling in their hands. Dane gritted his teeth. This wasn't a fight he had planned for. It wasn't a fair fight, but that didn't matter. He hadn't come this far by playing fair. He checked his ammo. Not enough for a full firefight. He checked his surroundings. Narrow halls, low ceilings, rusted supports. Good. Very good. As the first wave of warbots charged, Dane shot out the ceiling braces. Massive steel beams crashed down, trapping and crushing several bots instantly. He tossed thermal grenades into the smoke, cooked circuits, shattered limbs. He turned the fortress itself into his weapon, but the bots kept coming. Adapt. Survive. Dane sprinted through collapsing hallways, rigging traps on the fly, trip mines, collapsing floors, shrapnel bombs. Each move was faster, sharper, deadlier. He wasn't just fighting for survival now. He was fighting against betrayal, fighting against time, fighting against the fact that someone wanted him dead from both sides. Above, watching through his cracked scope, Korak finally noticed Voron's absence. And then, the rebel signals intercepted on their comms. The pieces slammed into place in Korak's mind. Voron, the traitor. And the human was now walking straight into a trap laid by his own supposed allies. Korak's claws dug into the metal railing so hard they left deep grooves. He had made a mistake underestimating the human, but he would not make another. Turning to Skur and the few loyal mercenaries, Korak growled, "Prepare to move. We're going in." Skur blinked. "Help." The human? Korak's lip curled into a grim smile. Not help. Repay a debt. And deep inside, Korak knew something even more dangerous. He wasn't doing it out of honor. He was doing it because if Dane died here, the galaxy would lose something rare, something terrible, something beautiful. And Korak, warrior of 100, worlds wanted to see what kind of fire this human could truly unleash when pushed to the edge. The heart of the fortress pulsed like a living beast. Heavy doors of black steel slid open with a shriek, and Dane stepped into a vast chamber. The ceiling was lost in darkness. Massive chains swung from above, creaking like moaning spirits. Broken, statues of fallen warriors lined the walls, their faces worn away by centuries of decay. At the center of the chamber stood a figure, tall, armored in gleaming black, eyes burning crimson under a heavy helmet. The rebel warlord, Korak's mercenaries, hiding high in the shadows near the roof beams, froze at the sight. Even Korak's stomach twisted. He knew that armor. He knew that monster. Commander Varzoth, the undefeated champion of the Blood Wars. A killer who had once faced entire armies and made them kneel. And now, he wanted to fight the human. One-on-one. Varzoth's voice was like thunder rolling across dead mountains. "You've caused enough damage, human," he said, stepping forward. His boots crushed the broken floor beneath him. "Face me, alone, or I will burn this fortress to the ground. Bury you under it." Dane didn't flinch, didn't hesitate. He simply dropped his rifle with a soft clink and stepped into the arena with bare hands. The mercenaries gasped. "No weapons?" Skur whispered. Korak only narrowed his eyes. He understood. Dane wasn't showing mercy. He was making a statement. "I don't need weapons to beat you." Varzoth charged, moving faster than anything his size should have been able to, a mountain of armor and rage. He swung a massive hammer, glowing with plasma heat, enough to crush a battle tank in one strike. Dane dodged with the grace of a falling feather. The hammer smashed into the floor, cracking it open like glass. Before Varzoth could recover, Dane struck. One blow to the knee joint, sharp, precise. Varzoth stumbled, growling. He swung again, wild and furious. Dane flipped backward, grabbing a hanging chain, swinging over Varzoth's head with effortless control. The rebel warlord roared in frustration, firing plasma blasts from his gauntlet. Dane used the ruined statues as shields, weaving through the falling rubble, moving too fast, too unpredictable. He wasn't just fighting. He was dismantling Varzoth piece by piece, wearing him down, breaking his rhythm, until finally, Varzoth made a mistake. He overcommitted. Dane saw it, the brief, fatal window, and moved like lightning. He darted in under Varzoth's guard, ducked the hammer swing, and slammed a small magnetic device onto the warlord's chest plate. Varzoth looked down. Boom! The shaped charge detonated, not to destroy but to break the armor's locking mechanisms. Varzoth staggered, chest plate torn open, systems failing. In the next breath, Dane was on him. Climbed the giant like a wolf on a dying bull, fists striking at weak points, neck, joints, exposed wiring. Varzoth fought back desperately, trying to shake him off. But it was too late. Dane wrapped a chain around Varzoth's throat, twisting, pulling. The giant dropped to one knee, then two, choking, suffocating, and finally, collapsed. A mountain brought down by a storm. The chamber fell silent. The great rebel warlord, the butcher of armies, defeated by a single human with no weapons. Above, Korak's mercenaries were dead, silent. No jokes, no bets, only awe. Korak's heart thundered in his chest. He had witnessed many battles. But this was something else, something greater, something that could not be measured in strength alone. This was willpower, made into flesh. Dane stood over Varzoth's fallen body, breathing hard but steady. His knuckles were bloodied, his suit torn, but his eyes burned with a fire that no one, rebel or mercenary, could ignore. And somewhere deep inside the fortress, the rebel commanders watching through the monitors knew they had already lost, even if they sent armies now. Even if they rained fire from the skies, they would not stop him. Because in that moment, Dane wasn't just a soldier, he was the storm, and nothing could stand against him. The fortress burned. Thick black smoke twisted into the blood-red sky, and the ground trembled under the weight of collapsing towers. Explosions bloomed across the battlefield like dying suns, one after another, as the rebel forces panicked and turned on each other. They weren't fighting Dane anymore. They were running from him. Korak stood with his mercenaries on the ruined ridge, watching the scene below with wide, unblinking eyes. The human had done what no army could do. He had broken the fortress, broken their spirit, broken their will to fight. And he had done it alone. Inside the crumbling halls, Dane moved like a ghost through the chaos. His suit was torn, his body bruised, blood dripping from cuts on his forehead and arms. But his eyes burned brighter than ever. Ahead, Varan, the traitor, stumbled from the shadows, dragging a stolen rebel rifle. When he saw Dane, his face twisted in terror. "You're finished," Varan screamed. "I made a deal. They promised me power." "I know." Dane didn't let him finish. One shot, quick, silent, clean. Varan dropped without a sound, forgotten before he even hit the floor. Dane didn't even look back. There was no anger, no mercy, no regret, only the mission. And the mission was almost complete. At the fortress gates, the few surviving rebel leaders gathered, desperate and afraid. They raised white flags, stumbling out into the burning daylight, begging for mercy. They had never given. Dane stood before them, silent. The smoke curled around him like a dark crown. The firelight danced across his battered armor. He looked less like a man and more like a myth, a living nightmare for those who dared to think humans were weak. Korak and his squad reached the gates, weapons lowered in silent respect. They pushed through the rubble, coming to stand a few paces behind Dane. For once, Korak said nothing. He knew words were useless. What Dane had done could not be explained. Only remembered. Korak dropped to one knee, bowing his head slightly. The others followed. Even Skur. Even the most stubborn mercenaries. Not because Dane demanded it, but because they knew. They had witnessed something history would never forget. Later, as the fires died and the wounded were gathered, Korak approached the human one last time. Dane was sitting on a broken wall, cleaning his battered rifle, as calm as if he had just finished an afternoon stroll. "You could lead armies," Korak said gruffly. "You could take planets if you wanted, serve under me, or rule beside me." Dane smiled faintly, wiping a smear of ash from the rifle's barrel. "I didn't come for glory," he said. "I came to finish. A promise." Korak frowned. "Promise?" Dane stood, slinging the rifle over his back. "Someone once told me," Dane said quietly, "that real strength isn't crushing others. It's standing when everyone else falls." He glanced at the smoking ruins of the fortress, at the stunned survivors, at the mercenaries bowing their heads in his direction. And then he simply turned and walked away. No speeches, no banners, no rewards. Only silent footsteps fading into the wasteland. And so the story spread, across pirate fleets and mercenary camps, across shattered empires and dark market stations, of a human who walked into the deadliest fortress in the galaxy and broke it with nothing but grit, heart, and fury. They called him many names: the Silent Storm, the Ghost of Blood Wastes, the Doe Blade that Walks. But those who truly understood, those who had seen it happen, knew the truth. He was not a weapon. He was not a monster. He was simply human, and that, in the end, was what made him unstoppable.